Okay, we are ready. All right, guys. I have about 14,000 miles on it. Bought it about 2 years ago, and I have been riding this bike since about 2 years. And it not only changes the way you ride, especially for a guy like me who was used to riding cruisers and preferred cruisers. So I got into something like this, supposed to be a power cruiser, and damn, this is something. So I'm gonna tell you what I think about it. Let's call it a 15,000 mile review. Everybody does it. I'm not going to talk about the features. I mean, I'll talk about some features, but most of it is pretty much available everywhere on YouTube or what this does and all that stuff. But let me tell you my experience on this. So, before this bike, I used to ride a Suzuki Boulevard 800, 800cc, about it's called 50, Boulevard C50. That bike was there with me for 10 years, and I used to ride it. And even though I got better at it and riding it, but it was never the way I experienced riding on this one. In in about COVID times, I got this bike. I test drove this bike, and right when I test rode it, I was like blown away by the agility of it. Coming from a cruiser, you don't expect something that is called a cruiser to be behaving like this, but it was nimble, to say the least. I mean, I was amazed by its ability. Came to the dealership, the guy saw sucker written all over me, and I was in it. Bought the bike the same day. Took a while to get it together, got it, and all that stuff. And since I've been riding them then, so it's an amazing bike. I mean, Triumph has done excellent job on this. There is there are good things and bad things about it. Of course, every bike has, but the bad things are very little, and good things are just an amazing riding experience. Couple of let's start with. I mean, let's start with the bike. It's 2500cc. Everybody knows it. If you're Googling it and you're watching it now, you know it's 2500cc. You know it's the biggest production bike. You know it looks good, at least for my eyes. It looks great. It looks awesome. And a couple of things that I noticed about this bike when I rode it the first time was this on off switch. Yeah, let me show you. This on off switch is this switch right here. That switch by dealership recommended recommended is always keep it on, which I do. I used to initially turn it off. Then when a dealer saw me turning it off, he was like all horrified and all that stuff. He's like, don't turn it ever off. I'm like, all right. It's supposed to, if you turn it off completely and the battery drains out completely, it's supposed to clean up your computer, ECU or whatever. This some kind of scary shit they said. I'm like, okay, it stays on all the time. Now it stays on all the time. So that's the first thing I noticed about it. I'm like, oh, there's an on off switch, like old school. But okay. Then of course when it comes, it came with a well, this is a Rocket 3R, which is the mid controls. The GT comes in a controls where the controls are right here. That is for GT controls. I always preferred mid controls. Well, on Boulevard I used to have front controls, and when I sat on this and I realized, damn, these mid controls are much better than front controls. So I loved it. It comes not with this seat. This seat is not standard. This is a GT seat that me and my wife were able to finagle out of the dealership. Which not a finagle, but they were nice enough to give it to me. My wife was complaining about the fact that oh the Rocket 3R seat is too thin, so they were nice enough to give us a GT seat. And this GT seat has been a game changer, especially on a Rocket 3R. I always will recommend everybody to get a GT seat. It makes the ride much more pleasurable. Long drives, no problem. Reaching to the handlebar, even though these handlebars are 3R handlebars, becomes a little more convenient. And all in all, that's the seat I would recommend. I will always recommend this tailbag. I know a couple of guys of mine that do not want to buy a tailbag because, oh, it doesn't look nice, but trust me, you need something like that. This stuff, that's personal choice and all that. It might look ugly, which kind of does, but the tailbag is a definite must. Gives you a lot of support on this. So I always prefer a tailbag on everything, but this is definitely a tailbag worth bike because I'll use it as a long cruiser. That's another thing. This bike has turned out to be my Honda Goldwing. This is my long cruiser bike. 500 miles a day, not a problem. 600, sure, I'm okay with that. Does everything. And then I also got this windshield, which is a Power Bronze windshield. Power Bronze UK company. Uh, I know it's not supposed to have a windshield. That was one more thing that was bothering me, but this windshield is definitely a must because this bike runs speed numbers like crazy. And if you're running speed numbers like these, I'm telling you, you need some kind of windshield. The Power Bronze windshield is great. I can do another review on that, but definitely a recommendation. And of course, a quad lock. Can't go any bike without a quad lock anymore. So reliable. A couple of incidents that happened on the bike, and that made me always wonder why can't I have a crash guard, but there is none available. I have tried, trust me. So, and one of the things about this bike is normally if I get a bike, I try to change the exhaust on it and make it lighter, make it whatever, but there is no exhaust that I think looks as good as the Triumph exhaust. Look at this thing. Beautiful. So, even though I have done some tuning on it, but I have not changed the exhaust. This is a beautiful thing. I don't want to change it. And of course, I got these side pannier racks. We can put side panniers on there, which is a great addition because they look okay, but they are very functional. They come with their own bags, and you can take the bag out of there and take it in your room if you're going somewhere and leave the panniers here. Panniers can lock too. That's a separate review altogether, but excellent stuff all in all. One thing that I really I cannot get over how stupid it is, and that's the only way to explain it is the Bluetooth connectivity of this thing. Uh, it it has to go through some kind of a Triumph app. You are supposed to control it, but if you do a Bluetooth connectivity on this, I can never get it to function right. So I'm like, screw it. That is the biggest problem I ever faced in this Triumph, and I always recommend everybody not to get Bluetooth connectivity with Triumph. I mean, maybe I'm stupid and I don't understand it, but trust me. I mean, I try. First of all, even if it works sometimes, half of the time it's so screwed up that it doesn't. It's not easy. So, and if you see this tape right here, I put it there because this thing, the windshield was moving up and down once in a while. So I used to scratch this thing. So I put a tape a little. It looks a little ugly, but does the job. And that's one thing. And of course, you see the gas tank. Damn, this thing can drink. So this is something about drinking of using gas. If you are riding on a highway and it shows you 160 miles, it will literally keep going and you will not need to fill gas because highway speeds, I mean, constant 75, 80. If you want to keep it at 75, 80, if you keep it at that speed, 75, 80, or for that matter, any constant speeds. I did Shenandoah Valley, the Skyline Drive or Skyline Parkway or whatever that is. It's 150 miles, 120, 25 miles, not a problem. Did the whole thing because most of it is like a third gear, fourth gear ride. Most of it is like that, consistent speed, and we were able to do it in couple of. I used like quarter of the, like three quarters of the tank, so I was scared going on there because there's no gas pumps or anything on the whole 120-mile journey. But it did okay. It did okay. And I was very happy with it. But if you are riding the twisties and if you are throttling it up and down, uh, yes, you're gonna run out. I'll give myself 100 miles. Every 100 mile, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna fill this gas because I'm telling you, if it's not highway, yeah, maybe on a highway you can go 120, 130 miles, but on a thing, on a twisty road, on inside roads, on back roads, whatever you're doing, 100 miles or maybe 100 miles is what you can definitely do. And after that, the light will come on, and that's it. That's my limit. But when we did the Shenandoah or when we do the highways, the light doesn't come on until 125 miles, 130 miles, so which is good. So if as long as you're on consistent speeds, you're good. But if you're not on consistent speeds, that's a problem. What else did I change? Okay, so the biggest change that I did on this bike was rent tuning. I got the BT motor tuning done on this thing. And I'm telling you, once you ride this bike for a year, year and a half, 2 years, whatever you want to ride it for, and after that, once you are saying, "Oh, is this all the bike can do?" Put BT motor tuning on it and see it frickin' thing roar. I mean, this thing can just, oh, I mean, you would delimit the gear RPMs because they delimit it for you with the tuning, and this thing can roar. I mean, already, I mean, if you ride it in sport mode, it's crazy enough in sport mode. But if you get that tuning done where it delimits the gears and opens up the engine or whatever it does and does the throttle responses correct and all that stuff, oh, now this thing is like, sometimes it's not, I mean, if you think it's a beast when you buy it, do that and oh, this thing is like a monster, monster, monster. The power. So when it comes from the factory, the the factory setting on this is 70% of the throttle in road mode. So even if you are pressing the whole throttle all the way, the engine is responding only 70%. So if that's happening, then that's a problem. Not a problem, but that's what they have designed it to do. And when you open it up with a BT motor tuning or some other tuning, whichever we want to do, it things open up. And this is a amazing, amazing, amazing bike after that. I mean, but I wouldn't recommend it to do somebody to do it right away. I think you should enjoy it before and then do it later on, maybe a year into it, a year and a half into it, and then do it. Otherwise, don't do it. I mean, you can do it, but you won't enjoy the difference of it unless you ride it first for a year and a half and then go ahead and do this. I have this, which is mostly basically a torque thing, a torque bag that has some tools in it. I always carry some tools. I mean, of course, everybody does. I have not adjusted the suspension at all. And I'm a heavy guy. I'm 250 pounds on a great day. On normal days, I'm about 255, 260. So, but I have not adjusted the suspension on this at all. Factory suspension, whatever it came with, never messed with it, never did anything, and never had a problem with it. Rode 500 miles, 600 miles on a day, not a problem. It has worked wonderfully well. Of course, I always recommend the Bluetooth. I've already told, don't get the Bluetooth because Bluetooth is a problem. It never works. It says 13,581 miles. I have a iron butt coming soon, so that'll probably come to 15,000 in a month. That I'm going to record also. And this is how it turns. These are the modes. if you keep pressing mode, road, sport, rider, rain work. Actually, so the rain mode, I have worked with rain mode couple of times actually, and it works really, really well. You're very confident on the road when you are in the rain mode. I mean, it really works good. Look at the temperature, 91 degrees, and I'm still wearing a jacket. So that's another thing. I mean, it is a great, great ride in the rain mode. The modes are awesome. They really make a difference. You do a rain mode, you do a road mode, you need a sport mode. They are completely different from one another, and you will know it right away when you ride it. So, who should buy this bike? That's another question. Is it good for me? Is it good for me or not? So, this is my recommendation on this. If if you are a cruiser guy, you're a power cruiser guy or some kind of cruiser guy, you're a cruiser guy, and you say, you know what? Ah, okay, let me start. So mine was a Suzuki Boulevard 800, as I said before. It was a cruiser. It was not a power cruiser. It barely had 50 horsepower in it, 50, 55 horsepower, or 80. I don't remember, something like that. So, and I used to ride it, and I got very good at riding it. And when you get good at riding something, and that's when you start to see, okay, you know what else can I explore, what I cannot explore, what I can and what I can and cannot explore. So that is where you. One second. Okay, sorry, I got interrupted by the wifey looking at me and like, what the hell are you doing here? I'm like, I'm doing something. So that's that. So I was talking about a Suzuki Boulevard I used to have. Once you start riding it good, it is it's a good bike. I mean, it's a great cruiser bike for somebody starting to ride and all that stuff. I rode that for 10 years. Not that many miles on it, but I rode that for 10 years. Then one day, so people who are in cruisers, on cruisers, and they're looking for something more powerful. Of course, that's the category. You can always go this one. You can always go Boulevard M109R. But Boulevard M109R does not even have ABS. It is very technology less. There's barely any technology in it. People like that. I want all the technology I can get. So when I test rode this, it's a very expensive bike compared to all the others, but it was it was a bike that when I rode, as I said, when I got into the dealership back after riding it, I'm like, this is the bike I want. So the difference is on Boulevard, I used to do maximum 80 miles an hour, or and that's on a highway, and that's the Boulevard was capable of maybe 85 or something like that. I was doing 70 miles an hour turns on this bike when I test rode it. It was a completely different experience. So maybe my riding skills were not that good, and this made my riding skills better. Could be, but that's what it did. That's why I buy it. Who else need to buy it? It can be used as a great cruising bike as far as long distance bike. I do it all the time. It's awesome. The people I know on Facebook groups and all that stuff, they have done excellent, excellent, excellent jobs on this, riding all the bikes everywhere, 45 miles, 450 miles, 5,000 miles, all that stuff they do. So all in all, it's a great bike. It's a great riding bike. If you're looking for a bike that puts an oomph to ride and to look good, of course, it's a great bike. I would really get a windshield. I would get a tail bag, and year and a half down the road, after you're done riding it for about 10,000 miles, put BT motor tuning on it and see the difference. And I will also get these pannier racks. They're very easy to install. You can do it. Dealership can do it. And I have dropped the bike once or twice. I mean, I was always with somebody, so we were able to pick it. But yeah, it took the drop well. I mean, you can tell where it was dropped and all that stuff, but it took the drop pretty well. So I, not that I wish that on anybody or myself, but it did a pretty good job there also. And what else? What else? Let's see. These are again, but I wouldn't recommend it. These are again Power Bronze handguards. I thought they were going to help me in the winter time, but they didn't. It was pretty bad. I mean, it was pretty much the same. I think the distance is too much. I think the air gets here on the left and right, and it didn't make any difference in winter riding. I thought it was going to be better than that, but it was not. So the windshield definitely, and so after about 10,000 miles, they come with A1 tires, and people swear by them a lot. But in my experience, uh, Metsars were much better gripping. Maybe I was riding better with them, but you can tell there's a lot more grips in these tires, Metzeler Metzler tires, than compared to the A1 tires. A1 tires are pretty much, yeah, they had grips on the side, but nothing on the front, and it was different. I mean, the ride was still okay, but this is, I think, if I would go on it again, I would go with the same tires. I would not change anything. This is one of those bikes that I've not changed much on it. Put some accessories, put some here and there, but didn't change the exhaust, didn't wanted to change the exhaust, didn't want to change anything. Yes, one thing, seriously, guys, this is the second time I have to buy this. Please make sure you don't mess with it. It comes with the factory like this. It's supposed to come out. There's supposed to be two Allen wrenches in there. It's supposed to be the tool kit. And I say it like this. It's a tool kit. I had to put the whole thing on a long ride. We were coming back from, I think, Washington, D.C., and got loose and just dropped off. The whole thing just dropped off. For about a year, when COVID was going on, I couldn't get parts for it, and they were expensive. It's like this whole thing, this itself, and this. There's three parts in there. This is the emblem, this thing, and this thing. They were $600, but the bike was looking imperfect without it, and it had carbon parts on it, so it was covered and all that stuff. But I did not like the idea, and I was convinced by one of my friends to put the original back on. So I spent the $600 to make it look like what it is looking right now. So this is a faulty problem in this. This will fall off. If you take it off once, make sure you put it on properly, because it has the capacity to not go on properly and then fall off. So be very careful with that. Actually, the bike came back from the dealership after doing something, after the service, and that's when it fell off. So the carbon thing fell off again. So the carbon thing fell off. I had to put another carbon in there. So it's a long drawn process. I would not. I wanted to show you how to open this, but I'm not going to do it because I don't trust it anymore. It's in there, about 100 miles already, so that's good enough for me. So, will I recommend the bike to anybody? Hands down, every time, yes, I will. And have I done numbers on it? Yes, I have. I have not done a wheelie on it because I don't know how to, but I have done numbers on it. I have ridden it wherever it's supposed to ride. Sometimes it was going even a little off road here and there, but not much. But it does well. It's a very accomplished bike. Would I recommend? Every time. Oh, I put a quick shifter in there. Forgot about the quick shifter. The most smoothest of the quick shifter. I have quick shifters on other bikes too, but this is one of the most smoothest quick shifters I've ever experienced. So Brembo bakes. So all in all, I love this bike, and I hope this helps. Nothing but a pure admiration on this bike. And if you're watching this after this, I think if you're planning to get this bike and in competition with something else, it will win hands down in any competition. it's reliable too. The only competition I can think of on this is Ducati Diavel, and in my opinion, I have seen Diavels work against it, but there is no comparison. This is hands down the most reliable compared to Ducati Diavel, which is the only probable comparison you can make with this, horsepower wise and riding style wise. Hands down, a much, much, much better bike. I hope to see you next time. Enjoy.